or not.
Hello, five-star community and family. We are here on this, I don't know where you are, but it's gloomy on this Thursday here in Kalamazoo. But we are excited to talk to you today about open houses. So I want to introduce one of my really, really close friends and colleagues and mentors. I don't think that she knows that, but I consider her to be one of my mentors, Miss DeAnna Phillips, who is based out of the Kalamazoo Portage area. So welcome, DeAnna. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you giving of your time. We know you're very busy agent, but we're going to talk today about open houses, and you have such a wealth of information for our agent community. I feel about that. So if you could first introduce yourself and let us know how long you've been in the business, what your relationship is to Five Star, and how long you've been here, and we'll get started in talking about open houses.
Sure. Thanks, Marissa. It really is a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to have the opportunity to do this. So I've been in the business for 20 years. I started as an assistant, an unlicensed assistant, and grew a lot in that year, and just really realized how much I liked what we got to do, what realtors got to do. So I dove in, got my license, and was a part of a team until 2008. During the crash, and at that time decided to go out on my own. And a lot of people would have thought that was crazy. Actually, the person I was with thought I was crazy for leaving during a crash. But I figured if I could succeed then, I could succeed at any time. So made it through that really well and never looked back. I've been with larger brokerages, came to Five Star the day we came out of COVID lockdown, and have really appreciated the value that Five Star brings, and just thrive here and really enjoy it.
Awesome. Thank you. So we're going to jump right on in because you just gave us your history, right? You've been in the business. You have seen the ups and the downs and the waywards and the peaks and the valleys, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us in the context of our topic today, open houses. Speak to a little bit of how open houses were viewed and handled when you first got into the business, and then we can then fast forward to what's the difference now? Is it any different? So yeah, how were open houses when you first started getting into the business?
Well, I'll first say, I don't think anybody really loves open houses. So if you do, reach out to me, let me know why. Sprinkle your magic dust over here, because I don't think most of us love, on a Sunday having to wait around to then go do an open house and come back and have the day half over. When I started in the business, it was, you did them. And I know agents that did them on Father's Day, Mother's Day, they didn't miss them. Because not everybody has those days to celebrate somebody with. So there were people out shopping. But we also were very limited, and we only did them on Sundays. And you didn't do an open house for an hour. You did them for 2 to 3 hours. And I would say it's even changed in how we presented ourselves. Today, it's okay to go do an open house and be in blue jeans and casual and maybe a little bit more receptive to possible clients. And when I started, you were dressed to the nines, and you probably had a tray of cookies, and a lot of effort went into it. And I just think that now it was just as important then, but then we had a lot, our inventory was totally different.
Sure.
We had a ton of houses on the market. I would see people, in 2003 that were shopping at open houses and recognize them and know their name in 2005. Oof. And they were still shopping. So very different market, still important. And I think that today's market, if anything, it's a different kind of importance. And I don't want to jump ahead because we've got some questions outlined to try to stay on track, but I do think it's important to put time and energy into them. And I think what you put in is what you'll get out. If you are running out the door last minute, trying to quick print off a Flex MLS sheet, grab a disclosure and maybe a some type of highlight page that you have, that's probably what you're going to get out of your open house. I think the more time and energy and due diligence that you do to be prepared for them is better. They're different in the perspective of, I think a lot of us thought we could stop doing them.
That piece right there. And why is that? Because we were, when you first started in the business, it was a buyer's market.
Yes.
And now it is a seller's market. And because of that, many sellers and realtors are like, well, you don't need to do an open house. It's
right.
Gonna go. Right.
For me, I took the opposite approach to that. And for me, I spun it differently for my sellers. And my approach was, so it's always your choice. I always give them that's their choice. We don't force them. That's not a requirement. Some people don't want open houses, and that's okay. That they're the decision makers. We're the drivers. They're the decision makers. Exactly. But I do think where I spun it was, I could hold an open house on a Saturday, a Friday, a Tuesday. It really didn't matter what day. And I'm going to get 30 or 40 people through that open house. Right. Rather than having to have 30 or 40 showings.
Right.
And I was getting people into open houses when agents weren't available. And I was saving agents the hassle of having to get out when maybe it wasn't even the right house for the client. So that's where I found my value was, I think it simplified my job a little bit with all of the craziness of the showings. It definitely simplified the lives of the family that's opening up their home for people to come into. And I think we forget too, we're not always doing an open house just for the seller.
That part, and we'll be talking about benefits here shortly, but I'm writing some notes even as you're speaking right now, because we know that many agents, especially newer agents that get into the business, don't know the reason why do we do an open house, right? And traditionally the reason is, we want to sell it. And if you think outside of the box and tell yourself there are other ways, this is one of the ways that I market, right?
Right.
Like I said, we'll get to that later, but just in general, thinking outside of the box always, and understanding that it's just another opportunity, right?
Absolutely. And it's not always about a lead. And again, we'll talk about that. It's not always about a lead, but I think they're terribly important. I think that it's a great opportunity to have your sign out in front of a house when people are driving by. It's great if your directionals are out everywhere that makes sense. It's advertisement. It's important to stay out in front of people. It really, really is. And be the specialist, be the expert.
It's a contact sport, right? We hear that all the time in our business, meaning you need to have as many contacts as possible to be successful. And I think so many of us think that only means, well, I need to make 300 phone calls a week, and I need to go door knock. Sure, those are tactics, right? But there are a lot of different ways that you can get out in front of people, and open houses are one of them. So if we just change our mindset, just shift our mindset a little bit, think outside the box, especially in 2023, when I'm hearing from a lot of you out there that you're not sure how this year is going to pan out. You don't know what this year is going to look like in terms of sales and, how busy are we all going to be, inventory. So why not, when you do have the opportunity to have a listing or to host someone else's open house, right? Yeah. Any opportunities to get out in front of people, contact, right? You have to think of it as a part of your business as opposed to, or a staple of your business.
Yes.
As opposed to something that you just do arbitrarily if you have the time and if you want to.
Yeah. Right? And I think the mindset part of it is really important. I do think that when you're dreading going to have this open house and you're dreading having to be there, it does come off. Sure. And so I think you've got to go into it with the excitement and the energy that you would for any listing appointment or buyer appointment. You're excited to be there. You're excited for the opportunities that are lying ahead of you. Mm-hmm. There were plenty of times that I sat on the floor at an open house for 2.5 hours and nobody came in the door.
Sure.
After a while, I got a little bit more savvy and would take my computer and at least get work done. But it's, you really got to put the time and energy into it. And the more I'm a big believer that the more time and energy you put into it, the better outcome you'll have. I think planning for them is terribly important, and just being accessible. And, you know, I know agents that sometimes say, I'll do one and then I'm not doing another until I get a price reduction. Some people just flat out say right in their marketing, I don't do open house. But in my opinion, you're the only one. You're the listing agent. So you're the one that's been through that house. You've walked through that house. That seller has told you every in and out of that house. You really are the best one to sell that house at an open house. And when I say sell, I mean educate the buyers that are coming in. You are the best one. If you're asking a newer agent in the office so they get experience, that's great. No, you know, not knocking it at all, but maybe go with them, because again, you are the powerhouse behind the listing information. You're the one that's the keeper of it all. Even with our listings, we can't put everything in there that we know. We put as much as we can, but maybe there's some really cool, unique feature that we want to point out. So I'm still a believer that we as the listing agent should be the one doing it. I understand that sometimes that doesn't work, but
what are some of the benefits to the seller for doing an open house? Why should a seller consider doing that, as opposed to, especially where we've been in the past few years, where we've been in a seller's market, right? How do you overcome that objection if a seller says, I don't want to do that? How do you overcome that objection? What are the benefits?
So my first response is, do you want to have the house open and available for 3 hours, or do you want 17 possible showings and in and out, in and out, in and out? Like there, I show them, and obviously the market is shifting and we're not having that frenzy, but I still think that that's still a great way to advocate for the open house, is that you're there, you can speak to the house better than the buyer's agents that are bringing their client through. That buyer's agents can still bring their client during the open house. It cuts down on traffic. There's just a lot more control. So that's really my way to get past it. If they're just dead set that they don't want one, that's okay. Again, that's their choice. I'm just trying to make it a little bit easier for them. And usually that wins it. Everybody's busy. Nobody wants to be going, coming and going. So usually they're like, oh my gosh, that makes a ton of sense. Thank you. Yes, just let's do an open house and just see what happens.
And we have to think about value proposition, right? Everything, we always have to be approaching all of our business dealings, our client communication with how can I provide value, or how can I communicate value to you? Because most of the time, if there's a question, they're not sure. They don't know, or at the moment don't appreciate what the value is, right? So it's our job to communicate what the value is. And we'll talk a little bit in more depth later about lead capture, but obviously a really big benefit for many newer agents I've seen is that they host an open house and they are able to get leads. So we'll talk about a little bit later how to maximize that opportunity, just some ideas of how to maximize that opportunity. What are some ways that you prepare for an open house? You talked about preparation and that what you put into it, you get out. So how do you prepare for an open house?
Yeah, so I don't rush them. I really try not to rush them. I when the market was fast and frenzy, we would list, and then within 2 days I'd have the open house, and that just it worked then. I think that's going to continue to change. I do think that the preparedness is first and foremost just basics. You got to know, you need to remember that those people walking in the door know every house that's for sale around it, the one that you're holding open. So know what your competition is. They're going to know how many days on market the one 2 blocks over has been on the market. So I usually try to just do one single printout. And I use that 2 ways. I'll use it if they say that this isn't the right house for them. I'll ask them if they've looked at any of these. And so I feel like that's me providing value even if they have an agent. I'm like, hey, here's a list if you just want to review it. I don't know, maybe your agent, you haven't gotten out to see it, write it down, but I don't let anybody leave with it. I only make one copy.
I see.
Yeah. And I'm not lead capturing off of it or anything. I'm just providing value. I'm just showing, hey, this is how far I go for my clients. The other side of that I like is if possible sellers are there, because buyers are sellers, then they're also acknowledging, wow, this is everything that she does at an open house. This is what she would do if she was selling my house. Nice. So definitely knowing the area, always having more than enough printouts that you think. Make sure you've got your disclosures there and make sure they're filled out right. Make sure that before you upload them to the MLS, before they're printed, review them with your client. A lot of times they just don't understand how they're answering something, and it can hurt the deal. It can hurt the progress of a potential sale. Yep. I always bring information for both buyers and sellers. I'm not just there for buyers. I am potentially there to also get a seller lead and assist a seller. Okay. And the other thing that I do is I do 2 packets. When I ask them when they come in, I don't pursue their information heavily. More so, I want to know, are they working with an agent or are they not? Yeah. I want to know if they are, because I don't want to step on toes. I don't want to overstep any boundaries. And if they're not, then I want to take the opportunity to be a little bit more formal with them, a little bit more personable with them. And I give them different information. So I'll still hand them the MLS sheet, the disclosure, but it's also going to have maybe my bio, maybe some client testimonials. So you have multiple handouts available at each open house. Yep. And are they on that response? And are they things they can just grab, or you're saying that I have them in my possession and I'm handing them out intentionally based on who I'm interacting with. So how does that pan out if you have a busy open house and it's just you? Okay, so if it's just me, I'm still the first point of contact. I'm still at the door. I'm still asking immediately, do you have a realtor or not? If you do, here's this packet. If you do not, here's this packet. As you can see, it's really busy. I'm here to answer any questions for you. Feel free to look around. I might point out the bedrooms are on this side of the house. The primary is over here. Check out the basement. It's got a great whatever bar, walkout. And I'm here when you're ready to ask any questions. Because I never want anybody to feel like, even though I'm talking to this person over here, that I don't have time for them. Right. And that is incredibly important to do. Make sure that they know you're accessible, even though you might be in a conversation. So busy open houses, I also handle in a little bit differently, that I will usually ask for a lender to come with me. Okay, so collaborate. And I would also not hesitate to ask another agent. I think we'll talk about safety a little bit later. That's a component for me. But also, lenders don't mind, most of them don't mind attending an open house. It's a great opportunity for them to potentially get business. Exactly. It helps pre-qualify people pretty simply. They're another set of eyes on the entire situation. And they can kind of be a second set of ears for who is really talking about, oh, did you see this? I really liked it. Or the people that just kind of float through real quick and out the back door and you don't see them again. And some lenders can qualify or pre-qualify there. If it were me, I would want a lender who more so is taking the opportunity to actually get a pre-approval or pre-qualification, right? Like start those steps. Because if you think about it, that's how you know if someone is serious or not, right? Absolutely. I think that's how you can separate the looky-loos, which are fine, because looky-loos can turn into business later, right? Or they know somebody. Exactly. So, I think it is, we were talking about open house prep, right? So making sure that you're being intentional about what your goals are. I think a lot of times when people are prepping for open houses, it's like, all right, let's do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And then we're going to sprinkle you were talking about cookies. Let's sprinkle some cookies in there and some nice smelling candles. And, I've done my due diligence, but
again, what you said, like what you put in is what you get out. So
Yep.
if you're going to have a lender there, my suggestion, or any other collaborator, stager, some people make a big deal out of like their open houses are a whole event, where, warmer climates where, people have DJs and,
Food
a
trucks.
photo booth, like,
yeah,
sky's the limit. Some of us watch these shows, like these millionaire real estate shows, right? So
Yeah.
obviously there's so much, there's so many opportunities. I think the goal and the message that we want to get across to you all today is be creative.
Yes.
Okay. Actually, the more creative you are, the more successful you will be. But understand that your intention should be, you should have different goals. Sell the house, get some prospects, get your name out there, maybe establish yourself as a neighborhood expert, right? Get yourself out there and get those leads and get those opportunities and be as creative as possible, right?
I think I totally would agree. I think if an agent goes into an open house expecting that they're going to sell that house, they will most of the time be disappointed and feel like it was for naught. So I think that you have to go into it with different layers to it. The other thing that I would say, one of the best tricks I ever learned from a very seasoned agent was actually an open house kit. So I have an actual bin. It's got my pens in it, my cards in it, my 5-star buyer guide, my 5-star seller guide. It's got everything in it other than the MLS printout and disclosures. Because
it's just ready to go.
I'm ready to go. It's in my car, pull it out, unload it, put it on the table, organize it however I'm going to, pack it back up. I'm good for the next go round.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
Make it so it's not as much work, but the content that you're bringing in is consistent.
Sure.
And you don't have to chase your tail trying to pull it together, because again, it's going to make you not want to do them.
And that's what happens, right? Is I remember this in my early days. I didn't know any better, right? And I'm hosting open houses for seasoned agents because I don't know what else to do.
Right.
And so I'm like, let me grab some papers and some pens and let me create this sign-in sheet in Word, and I'll bring some snacks. And you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. Right. And how am I going to be at my best? Right. How am I going to be at my best when I arrive, ready to greet people, or ready to answer questions, ready to impress, because that is my interview.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes, right?
First impression.
How can you do that if you're running around prior to, because you don't have all your stuff together and you haven't prepped? So, and I think that is a phenomenal idea. Just in general, if you make the open house just a part of your business, like it's not an afterthought, like you as a business model have open houses incorporated in, right?
Yeah. So I think two points to that is it's the first impression. Like if this is potentially a seller, it's the first impression. If it's either side, it's the first impression. So if they say, hey, where's your sign-in sheet? And you go, I don't know. Here, just sign the back of this. I'll get back with you later.
Right.
Come on. You're not shining.
Yeah.
But I'll just share this real quick. One of the first open houses I did coming out of my team was just a typical ranch, nothing special about it, nothing fancy. Had 3 people through, but I hit it off with this one lady.
Okay.
And I didn't think I had. I did not think I didn't think we were alike. I didn't think we'd enjoy each other. Something didn't tell me that I'd won yet. And I followed up because she happened to, she didn't give me she did not give me her information.
Okay.
She told me what her house was like, and I knew exactly where it was.
Okay.
So I did a search, remembered what her first name was, and it matched what the tax record said. So I took a chance, sent a note, said, hey, really nice to meet you. I'm glad you came through the open house. If there's any further information. It was 2 years later, she called me to sell her house, which was about 150, bought a 300. Okay. Then ended up asking me to sell that one and bought a 650.
You just never know.
That was never know. You never ever know who you will click with or I believe that when people come in, they don't want to be chased after like art van salespeople do. You know, you walk in the door and try to run to the elevator, get
Hey,
downstairs.
hey, buddy. Hey,
they're right there. Yeah.
Hey.
And I think that sometimes because of that, they don't really show us how much they're interested in. And we have to realize that and not take that at face value or be offended by it.
Yeah.
And still do our job.
And well, I loved, I'm going to love phrasing it this way, but you're auditioning. You are auditioning. You never, ever, ever know.
Right.
Which is why it's important to always bring your A game, which leads us to marketing, right? How are we marketing our open houses? When you do an open house, how do you market? And then I can discuss kind of how I do it, how I've noticed other agents, and just to put some ideas out there in the community.
Yeah, I think there's so much more marketing opportunities available to us now than there were when I started, for sure. So obviously Facebook, I'm posting it everywhere social that I can. I'm getting my signs out very early in the week. I want to drive that morning traffic and that going home traffic for as many days as I can that there's going to be an open house. And I would say the other thing is boosting. I know it's, not everybody's into it or whatever, but you're hitting, if you do boost on certain social media, it does target directly to people that are
targeted ad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely showing to those people that are in the market.
Yeah.
But I really think that the signs out there are really important. And the other thing that I will do, which is probably not common, but I will ask my sellers, hey, repost this stuff, but also, can you put a flyer in your break room at work, which during COVID obviously didn't work. But now that people are going back into the office, if they've got friends that come over every once a month for a euchre, they might say, really love the neighborhood. Maybe that's the buyer. They need to be talking up their house just as much as we are.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I would say that's a little bit, that's
okay.
A good portion of what I do.
Let's talk about signs. What are some things that people should be mindful of? I think signs are, before we talk about some of the other ways to market, signs are obviously the low-hanging fruit.
Right.
It's the easiest way to drive traffic. So what are some things that people should think about when they're putting signs out? You mentioned you put your signs out days before. Yep. So what are just some tips there?
So one, I would say everywhere that it makes sense. I know we all hate putting them out and picking them up and dodging traffic. And, if it's raining or snowing, it's not fun, but it's solid advertising for you. It's hundreds, if not thousands of cars potentially driving by it. So why not capitalize on for a week? Sure. The other thing you do have to be really careful of, if you're a new agent or even some seasoned agents still will make this mistake, you have to know where your signs are allowed. Signs are not allowed sometimes on the other side of the sidewalk that's, in the grass closest to the road, or blocking traffic views. And I know there's 3 areas here for us in Kalamazoo. They don't call you to tell you to come get your sign. They just simply take it and get rid of it. And now you're forking out more money for your sign. So know where your signs are allowed to be. If you're going to put them in somebody's yard on a corner, it's always polite to go up and knock on the door and say, hi, I'm DeAnna with 5 Star. I'm going to be holding this house open. Would you mind if I put it in on the corner? I promise to pick it up Sunday when I'm done. It's just going to be here a week.
And that's a perfect opportunity too, to market the open house and to them, invite them. Hey, and you're free.
Absolutely. And a second thing to that, which I was going to bring up under safety, is the more people that know around there that you are there for an open house and you should be leaving by 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whatever, and your car is still sitting there an hour later, should be concerned for you. Sure. So that's another opportunity. And it's another opportunity to invite them. Hey, would you like to come? I'll be here 15 minutes early if you want to get there before the masses, whatever. So
that's the only time that I would, me personally, I would advocate for door knocking.
Yeah,
is
I agree.
very intentionally, maybe the 20, 50, whatever closest homes around the house, a couple of days before the open house. That's when you door knock.
Yeah.
Maybe have a flyer and say, hey, just want to let you know there's going to be some cars coming through here because we're having an open house here on Sunday. Feel free to stop by and take a look around, blah, blah, whatever. Really easy, right? And it's not going to feel like you're selling anything. It's an invitation.
Yep.
Right. One thing that people do for marketing is, this is a popular one in some of the warmer climates, is they hold 2 open houses. So one is specifically for the neighbors.
Yep.
So you make them feel like they're special. It's like a neighborhood open house preview or neighborhood preview or something like that. And you hand deliver these invitations or put them in the mail, but it's probably better to hand deliver them and say, hey, we're going to have a general open house for the public here on the weekend, but on Thursday, we're going to do a neighborhood preview. We'll have some wine and cheese. Feel free to come out. We'd love to get your feedback.
Yep. Yep.
From the neighbors, right?
Yep.
So I think that's a good way to market. I mean, you already mentioned social media, get it out there. Gone are the days where, I know there are a lot of people resistant to social media, but I think gone are the days where you can be a business and have no internet presence. If you want to remain a small business and things stay on a smaller scale, and if you want to do that, that's totally fine. But if you have certain goals, right, and you want to grow your business and scale your business, at some point you have got to have an internet footprint, because there are a lot of people, we get these calls, there are a lot of people that choose you based on your website.
Sure.
Or if they Google you and they can't find you, they're probably not going to use you.
Absolutely.
Right? So use social media.
Yeah. And to piggyback just on what you were saying about door knocking, I don't know if you would need to go 20-50 out. And that's, I think, to everybody's individual. Like if you have a team that wants to tackle it or something, but even if you do 2 to the left, 2 to the right, and the 4 across the street, again, they know that to expect higher traffic. So they're appreciative of that.
Yep.
If it is an invitation to come to just a private neighborhood open house, they appreciate that. But also statistics say once one house goes up for sale in the neighborhood, usually 2 to 3 follow. Wouldn't you want to be the one that they go, oh, she came over, I met her, or he came over, I met him, he was really nice. Wow, he sold it. They were really happy with him. I'm going to call the person. So it's a great opportunity for a first impression as well.
Speaking of, we mentioned postcards, sending out either a just listed postcard or a postcard specifically for an open house, depending on how far out you're planning. But that's something very easily that you could send to the whole neighborhood or a good chunk of the neighborhood. It's just, again, it's not just marketing this house, right? It's also marketing yourself and the business. But I'm pretty sure that your sellers aren't gonna be upset that you're getting more eyes on the property, right? And just a little tip here, putting my associate broker support hat on, use your resources through the MLS. I think there are still some people that don't understand that even putting an open house up on the MLS is auto-populating to Zillow and to realtor.com. And then obviously it's going to, if you have people who are specifically searching for agents who are specifically searching for open houses for their clients, they can search. And so don't neglect that part either. I know that sounds super basic, but I just want to make sure that we cover all the areas that we can cover in terms of getting the word out as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
I have a quick question about marketing before we move on to the next question. You kind of sort of touched on this earlier, so I'll use my experience, over, I would say 2020 to just, let's just say the end of last year, there seemed to be, you mentioned in the beginning of your career where open houses were always on Sundays. And then in our area, and I know this was happening in greater Grand Rapids area too, where people were doing open houses in the middle of the week. Sometimes calling them a first look open house. And then having another one on the weekend on like Saturday and Sunday. Do you see any benefit to doing that right now? 2023 today, what's today, January 19th. Do you see any benefit to doing that kind of double header, middle of the week and weekend open house, or stick to the weekends? Like what are your thoughts on that? What are your observations?
1000%. I will always do a weekday open house. And here's
Okay.
why. Okay. I raised 5 kids. When I was raising 5 kids, we didn't have travel sports.
Okay.
Families now are inundated with weekend travel sports. They're not around. So if they're driving home at 5 o'clock and I got an open house and they can swing in for 15 minutes and look at it and then get home and say, hey, honey, I think there's a house we might want to call the realtor and get a time to go in. It fits everything we were looking for. I don't mind that. And I'd rather do a really big, nice weekday open house, from 4 to 7 if I have to, then give up time on my weekend if I can get it done earlier. Like I think we all would, but that's really been my huge driving force behind going to weekdays was simply because I did not find that I was getting the amount of activity on the weekends. And when I would look at where everybody was, well, they're at travel soccer, travel softball, travel baseball.
Yeah.
Everything is travel now. And these guys are even playing on Mother's Day and Father's Day. I mean, it's a legit thing. So I don't think open houses have to be on Sundays for the benefit of any particular side of it. I think you do what works best for your client.
And
But
yourself.
But I think it's pretty easy for most families that are working until 5 o'clock. I've already had 1 hour down in the open house if I started at 4. They're picking up their kid, might have gotten home around 6 to start dinner. So just go out for dinner and come home at 7:10 and it's done. So that's just kind of been my philosophy behind it. And I really have not had anybody push back on it or not see a good reason to do it. If we don't have a good turnout, then I'll go to a weekend, but I will always do a weekday open house.
I love that. I love that that's your perspective, because I've seen a shift, when I first got into the business, it was like weekends, then it shifted to mostly weekdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays. And then I feel like in the tail end of like last year, we've shifted back to first, there were no open houses. Nobody was doing them. I looked
didn't have time to do.
I was like, there's no open houses anywhere. Nobody.
They were sold before you could do one.
Listen, or you would have an open house when you first list and then open house canceled, right? So, there was a period of time where there's nothing. And so now I feel like we're getting back to the weekend open houses again, like we were there about 10 or so years ago. So it's just been interesting to me to watch, but I love your take on it that, honestly, do what is best for your client and for yourself. And there is no set thing that will or will not work. I had not heard that take about sports, but as a mama who just last weekend had to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning to take my, not travel sports, just a regular basketball game at the Y. He had a double header Saturday morning. Okay. So the family, by the time we're done with all that, I'm not trying to go to an open house.
Right? I think the dynamic of that for me has worked, but the other thing, I think it's also just really important to understand that you have to do honestly what's authentic to you. And I will say, if looking back when I first got in the business, I want to say probably around 2004-ish, there was a big push collaboratively to try to get everybody to switch to Saturday open houses. And we couldn't make it work. We just could not get enough people on board. We just could not get enough to make it happen. And then all of a sudden we started seeing one agent do it. and then another, and then another. And then it kind of became an okay thing.
Okay.
Then we got really wild and crazy and we went to Tuesdays or Thursdays.
Right.
So I don't think there's a public perception of what's right or wrong
Okay.
anymore.
I don't either.
I think you do what's best for you. And I think ultimately, if you're just trying to get people in the house, you're doing your job.
Exactly. And which I think is a nice segue into lead capture. So you mentioned something when we were prepping for this about leads and open houses. So I want you to share it.
Okay.
And then I will share the other side of the coin's perspective, but I think that it's good. In my opinion, we're only as sharp as the people we're around. I'm sorry. If we make each other better, and how that happens is hearing different perspectives, taking it, maybe tweaking it to your own, or just being more open-minded, right? So I want to hear your perspective about lead capture at open houses.
Okay. And I will preface this by saying everybody's personality is different. Sure. And some people are like, just love that challenge of getting in somebody's face and making sure they get that name and that number.
Yep.
And other people are just like, oh my gosh, they don't want to talk to me. My feelings are so hurt, and you just can't do that. Like, you got to go with what's authentic to you. So I was having this conversation actually this morning with another agent that I was telling them I was going to be doing this. And they said, when I got in the business, nobody taught me what to say at an open house. And I was like, truth. Right. I was an assistant and I got on a team and I was sent to do an open house. I came back and I was like, what am I supposed to say when I'm at these things? What do I do? Because you also have to be careful not to violate, information. And I think sometimes we as realtors, when we get that person in front of us, we want to tell them everything we know because we are the experts. We have to be careful that we're not sharing information we're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
And if they're working with another agent, I don't necessarily want to know all of their information. Like, I don't want that. Sure. So for me, I don't have sign-in sheet. I don't use a sign-in sheet. I don't use a lead capture.
No sign-in sheet, ladies and gents. Go ahead.
None. Write me letters, whatever you want to do.
Revolutionary.
No sign-in sheet.
Okay.
I have nothing on an iPad. I have no QR codes, nothing.
Okay. My
approach is when they come in, I thank them for coming. Mm-hmm. I ask them how they found out about the open house. Because I want to know if it was the sign that directed them, if they saw it on social media. I want to know what's working for me. So introduce myself. How did you find out about the open house? And then the second thing is, do you have a realtor?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So pre-qualifying them, kind of
pre-qualifying, but really it's this. Yes, I have a realtor. May I ask who you're working with? Okay. You will be surprised at how many times they say, I don't know their name.
Right.
Okay, whatever. And then, but sometimes they'll say, oh, Marissa Harrington at 5-star. And I'll be like, oh, great. You're in great hands. And I will say that no matter what agent it is, because I always want them to know that I'm not a basher. Great. You're in great hands. Can I ask what your name is? And they might say Tom and Sarah. And I say, okay, well, hey, Tom and Sarah, the house is laid out this way, and check out the backyard. It's got a beautiful fire pit. The pool is made up of blah, blah, blah. And I'll give them some highlights. I'm sure if you have questions, would love your feedback, whether it's positive or negative. Okay. What do you mean? What do you mean negative? Well, if there's something that you don't like, I'd really like to know about it because that will help my seller. Okay. And so often they don't think that we want to hear the negative, and I do. All right. So when they're leaving, I already checked off if they have a realtor, and I'll say, so do you like it enough that I should follow up with Marissa? Great question. And they'll say, no, it's probably not for us. Great. Good luck with your search. I'm sure you're going to find the right house. And I just mark off Marissa. I cross her off my list. Now, if they say, yeah, we do kind of like it, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to reach out to Marissa and let her know if we get any offers. Okay. That's all I do, because most people don't want to give you their information.
Okay.
Most,
Okay.
they just don't. They feel like we're going to bombard them with emails and calling them, and it's just too salesy for me. That's just for me.
Yep.
But they do appreciate the fact that if I get an offer, I'm going to call Marissa.
Exactly.
Or if I'm getting activity, I'm letting Marissa know that Tom and Sarah were at my open house, and hey, you might want to give them a call and follow up and see how serious they are, because I had 40 people through my open house, or I had 5 or whatever, but I had a really good open house, and I would hate for your people to lose it just because they were afraid to give me their information.
Awesome.
That's how I handle it.
I love it. I love it.
And I've already handed them, if they said they had a realtor, they're getting the basic information. If they said they didn't, they have everything they need.
They're getting your profile or your bio, or exactly.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. My take on it, I'm kind of in between, right?
Yeah.
So I am definitely not for what we're known for. Unfortunately, it's a bad reputation of this like overly zealous, insincere, unauthentic, annoying person following you around the house with their business card. Definitely not that, right? But I do think, in my years, right, if you look at every opportunity, every listing you've had, and every opportunity that you've had with people walking through the door, right? I look back and I know in my heart, I'm like, there had to have been some missed opportunities there, because sometimes, here's the kicker. No, people don't want to give information or are wary about giving their information to you, right? If you are intentional though about how you do it, okay? If it's not give me your info, sign in, right? But if people, in my experience, if people are sincerely on a home search, and they don't have an agent, sometimes when they do have an agent, but when they don't have an agent, they're like, yeah, can you set me up on some automatic property updates? Because not this one, but we want to be able to see. So that's what I've experienced. So I think you have to be, it just goes back to what we have been saying this entire conversation, is being intentional. If you have someone that's like, no, okay. Right?
Leave them alone. Let them walk through the house.
Let them go on about their business and leave, right? But I think you will have some folks who are either undecided or like in between, and having, I think you are unintentionally lead capturing. Say that 3 times fast. Because if you're giving them a packet with your bio, you are subliminally saying, I'm the expert. If you have questions, you have a real estate need. So that to me is a form of lead capture. Maybe in an indirect way, right?
It's just, for me, it's not as salesy. I don't like that salesy side of it.
Like,
so
in
for
your
me,
face,
it's
like,
here's my information. When you're ready, contact me. You know how to get a hold of me. And I will say too, like if when they're walking out, and I say, hey, do you have any feedback? I'd love to know the pluses or the minuses, the negatives, positives, whatever. If they start talking to me, then I will open up dialogue. So how long have you been looking? So how are you finding the search going for you? Are you feeling challenged by it? And they'll start talking, and then sometimes it will turn into that. Well, let us give you our information. And if you see anything, and usually it's kind of like, if you see anything, just let us know. But we do have a realtor. Okay. Fine, no problem. So
I think that's a great idea. And just being, we keep saying be authentic, but being authentic also means being present, and showing up mentally, right? And not just getting to the open house and just kind of spacing out and going into autopilot, but really engaging with folks, and connecting. Right. That should be the whole point, is connecting, whether they have an agent or not, because I always tell folks, they could have an agent and still refer you to people.
Sure.
They could have an agent that they like. They're not going to jump ship. But if you impress them
Mhm.
and they remember you,
Right.
they can refer people to you.
Right.
Right.
Well, and this is kind of a side note, but they have an agent right now.
Mm-hmm.
Things happen in this. Yeah, things happen in this relationship with agency, and sometimes people fall out. And I was doing an open house for a colleague, and people came in and they were like, we really like the house, but the backyard's not quite right.
Okay.
And as we were talking, they said, well, we're working with an agent that's not from the area.
Mm-hmm.
And could we take your card? And I said, yes, but you're working with that other agent. I'm now working with them, and I helped them sell their house in the other location because they just didn't feel like the agent was doing enough.
Sure.
So I didn't take that. I didn't pursue it.
You didn't pursue them, right?
They came after me
Mhm.
just from the laid back interaction at the open house.
There
So
it is.
just because they have an agent now doesn't mean they will in 6 months if they haven't found something. So
Exactly.
maybe you're their second choice.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's better to be the second choice than it is the first one.
Do you do giveaways, or would you advocate for giveaways at an open house?
I don't know. I don't. I think that's a tricky situation. I think especially with RESPA, you are allowed to do giveaways, but you have to have enough for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to have wine or lottery cards or what a car wash gift card or something, you better have enough if you have 50 people come through that house.
Everybody.
So you got to have enough for everybody. I just don't do that. My gift, I feel, as cheesy as this is going to sound, is being prepared. No.
I am your gift.
I will not say that, but being prepared and giving them as much value for the process that they're in is where I feel that's what I'd rather spend my time on than stuff. Yeah.
That makes sense. We were talking about collaborators earlier, though. A lot of times, if you collaborate with a lender, they will bring swag.
Sure.
Right? You don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
I like collaborations for that reason, because that's not stuff I want to give and provide.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody else can.
Right.
And folks will gladly grab a pen and but I think more so what I've been seeing is just across the national market, where that's a good example, free bottle of wine for the first 50 people or 10 people or whatever. It gets tricky.
Right.
So not that it's wrong, but if you are interested in doing giveaways at your open house, just be very mindful. You know what? I would say call the deal doctors first.
Yes.
And say, hey, I'm going to do an open house this weekend. I'm curious, is it okay for me to do X, Y, Z?
Yes.
Okay?
Absolutely research your RESPA law, because it's not cheap if you mess it up.
I also don't think I'm not saying it's confusing, but I don't think it's as clear cut. I think there's a lot of gray.
Yeah. So like when I did one a couple before we hit the crazy market, and it was St. Patrick's Day, and I had a 6-pack of Guinness, and that's what I was giving away. And everybody was allowed or able to fill out their name and phone number on a little slip and put it in. So everybody had a chance to win it, but I wasn't giving a 6-pack to everybody.
Right.
So again, gray line could be considered that I didn't offer the same, I didn't give it to everybody, but I offered it. And I think that's, from what I've read and understand, that is the key word, offered.
Yeah. So giveaways could be another way for you to help market your open house, get more, I call boots in the ground or people in the door, whatever you want to call it. Just be mindful of the limitations, the boundaries, the legalities of that. As we're wrapping up here, for those of you that don't know, DeAnna is like a realtor safety extraordinaire. She has so much knowledge in this area. So, we would be remiss to have a conversation with DeAnna about open houses and not talk a little bit about some safety tips. So DeAnna, how can you stay safe when you're hosting an open house?
Okay, we got another hour, right?
We have 6 minutes.
Okay. Well, this is something I'm really, really passionate about. That is true. Here at GCAR, I headed up the safety video that is now provided to the new members because our safety video was incredibly outdated. And I put a lot of time and energy into that and had a lot of great collaboration. Marissa was a huge contributor to it as well. But open houses, you guys, you have to pay attention. You have to. We want you going home at the end of the day. Your family wants you coming back home. Okay. And there's a lot that happens. So one, you got to know you got to know where you can get out of that house as quickly as possible if something doesn't feel right. If something doesn't feel right, it doesn't mean you have to see a weapon or whatever. If it doesn't feel right, get out. Step outside, pick up your phone and call your husband and have a code word, or call somebody and have a code word that's I'm in trouble. I need you to call 911 and get the police headed this way. I don't feel comfortable. I will tell you, the police want that call. They want that call, not that there's a crime scene. Okay. So they don't hold it against us. They're very open about the fact that they're willing to take those calls. Know your way out. Don't go in basements. We've got a local realtor that went through a traumatic experience many, many years ago. Thankfully, she survived it. I would also say don't go upstairs. It's just as dangerous. Report anything that you're seeing. If something doesn't feel right, report it to your local association. They will vet it and then broadcast it to the membership as if it's a major, if they can validate it's of a concern. I had a guy that kept showing up to every one of my open houses for 4 weeks, all different, ranch, 2-story, everything different. And he had this great big flashlight. And every time I would step out of the house, and I finally took a picture of his car and his driver's license, sent it to the association, and the police went and talked to him. Found out he's just an elderly man, lonely. His wife has just died. And it was just something he was doing, to stay busy. He used to be a builder, but it scared me. It scared me.
Yeah, because you better be careful, right?
Yeah.
Safe than sorry, better safe than sorry, right?
Absolutely. The other thing that I do, I'm a fanatic about this, is I absolutely ask my sellers to put their butcher blocks away. Get them off the counter. They can be used as a weapon, not only against me, but any showing agent. Put it in under the sink. I don't care. Don't put it in the stove. People will open up the stoves just to check them, but put that stuff away. Make sure that you have a plan. If you're trying to come up with a plan when you're in the middle of a crisis, it's too late. You got to have a plan. We have so many safety devices that are easily accessible to us, not only through our own memberships and on our showing apps and stuff like that. Simple jewelry, easy things that are not detectable to the public, that I could be sitting here talking to you right now and just go like this and have triggered an alarm that now goes to every person that I put on that lets them know I don't feel safe. And my husband and my kids usually know what open house I'm at and would either start calling the police or heading that way or both.
Having someone there with you.
That's the other thing. If you can get another agent to go with you, that's great. If not, ask a lender. And the other thing I would say, watch how you market it. A very seasoned agent here in Kalamazoo, and I had a conversation a while back, and she said, I had this beautiful house on 10 acres and the house was set on the very back of the property and you had to go through all the woods to get to it. And this was what I was promoting for the open house. And she got there and she realized I'm on the back of 10 acres by myself and
everybody knows.
And I don't have cell coverage.
Yeah.
She was so panicked. She closed up the open house and left.
Yeah.
So you got to be aware of how you're promoting, what some of those things that would be things that people want, 10 acres, seclusion, all of that may not be to your best interest to be promoting unless you have somebody with you.
We have time for a couple more.
Okay.
And then we got to wrap up.
I just, and have all of the lights on. Like, make sure when you're leaving you've cleared the surroundings. Make sure when
Mhm.
you're pulling up, you've cleared your surroundings.
Do you park in the driveway or do you park in the street?
I park in the street. If I have to park in the driveway because it's busy, I park backwards so that if I had to
Mhm.
get to the car, I can get out.
Right.
I don't take my purse in. I don't take anything in with me
Good
other
idea.
than my keys to
Okay.
be able to leave.
Yep.
If I have to leave all my open house stuff behind whatsoever,
Okay.
I don't care. Even
Yep.
if I had to leave my purse, I'd leave my purse because I'm more important than that. I just want to get
Right.
out of there. But if
Right.
you ever just feel unsafe, grab your phone, simply apologize to the person that's in the room and say, I'm sorry, I was expecting this call. I have to step out. And
Mm.
one last tidbit, I was expecting this call because I have a client that's coming here to sign some papers with me.
Okay.
Just put them on notice that somebody's coming. So have a plan ahead of time. It's too
Follow
late
your gut,
afterward, and
right?
go with your gut and be safe. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, DeAnna. This
My
was so
pleasure.
great. I really hope that this was valuable for you all in our agent community. It's 2023. I think it is time for us to reimagine the open house. We know that right now there are a lot of people that may be slower or you're just not sure how this year is going to pan out. So every opportunity that you have to get in front of people, get clients, satisfy and wow your current clients, take all of those opportunities. And doing an open house is a very, very easy way to do that. Remember, low hanging fruit. So I
And
hope
pair
that
up with somebody. If you haven't done with one, pair up with somebody, get out there and just easily learn how to do it and be safe.
Yeah, yes, please, y'all. So thank you so much, DeAnna, for your
No
time
problem.
and your energy and your expertise. This was awesome. If you all have any questions, please pop it in the chat in the live. You can email us questions. We're here for you. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone, and your week, and have a great weekend. And we will be on for the next live stream at some point soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.